Okay, now that we know something about why the elements are what they are on the periodic table, we can talk about how these apply to biology. So last time we learned that because of the combination of subatomic particles, neutrons, protons, and electrons, you have different types of atoms. These atoms are called elements, and they make up the periodic table. There's a whole bunch of them on there, but there's really just a few of them that pop up all the time in biology, and they make up what we call organic matter. So the most important one is carbon. All living matter is based on the element carbon. In fact, many of them large molecules, macromolecules, which we'll discuss another time, actually start out as long chains of carbon, or what we would call a carbon skeleton. And then other things are hooked up to it. The most common other two elements that are hooked up to this carbon skeleton are hydrogen, and that's why most living matter is referred to as hydrocarbons, almost synonymous with being organic. And the other guy we see all the time is oxygen, and they both form lots of easy bonds with each other, and there's lots of combinations. So basically, carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen would be the basis for the three types of macromolecules, and those are carbohydrates, which is a fancy way of saying sugars, proteins, and lipids. And what we'll discover later on when we discuss macromolecules in detail is that really the way biology works, in order to make a very large molecule, you really take a small repeating unit and just put them together, what we might call a monomer, and we put them together in long chains to make polymer. So for example, a carbohydrate is really just the same sugars, just added together lots of times. Same with proteins, amino acids, and lipids. Okay, we'll talk about those another time. All I want to mention today is a few of the other elements that make some appearances there. So carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen are the major ones we'll deal with. But there's a few other elements, and I'd like you to copy this down and to know examples of where they're found. So nitrogen. Nitrogen is a molecule found a lot in whoops, wow, that's a really thick one. I should probably use a thinner one here. Nitrogen is found a lot in proteins. We'll talk later on about peptide bonds and why nitrogen is so important for it. Another place that nitrogen appears that we could put down as an example there is a very important element in DNA, in DNA bases. We'll talk about that another topic. Then we come down to calcium. Most of you probably know that calcium is an important element in bone structure. Phosphorus. Phosphorus appears in ATP. We talked about how ATP is the basic unit of energy. Sugar is broken down and converted by mitochondria into ATP, and that stands for adenosine triphosphate. So there's your phosphorus there. Iron, also very important. Iron-rich blood, right? And when we talk about iron-rich blood, basically we're talking about where it appears in blood, and that would be the strong molecule hemoglobin. Heme means iron in Latin. And then, of course, there's sodium. We talk a lot about low sodium diets and so forth. But for many processes, sodium is extremely important. As we'll learn later on when we talk about the nervous system, sodium is really important for nerve impulses. So I think that's probably a good way. I just wanted to introduce them to you. And next time we'll talk about macromolecules in more detail and how all these elements apply.